We're back for another episode of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. I'm your host, Brad Norwood. Today, one of my great friends, the CEO, the serial entrepreneur, the most giving guy that I have ever met, Mike Duley of the Duley Group. Welcome, brother.
Hey, can you come along with me to every one of my different speaking events and just kind of do that front intro thing, like before I walk in the house with my kids and my wife, just like, it's kind of like who's the guy that does UFC and boxing?
Yeah,
I know they're brothers.
right.
It's like, all right, weighing, hopefully they say weighing like 180, not 200, right?
I would love to. In fact, I put out last week on LinkedIn that one of my goals on my bucket list for 2021 is to speak in front of 100 people. I don't care if it's virtually or in a room full of people, but Mike, with all the speaking engagements, I could just warm you up, right?
There you go. Well, yeah, hey, my first class at U of A is 55 kids. So we'll get you there, right? So maybe if you did it twice, you'd be over your 100, right?
We could come in with a stadium introduction for you. I always wanted, growing up, Craig O'Neill was the PA guy at Razorback games. And so was Andy Hawkins. And I loved Andy Hawkins' voice. And I can still hear in my head, Madre Hill with the carry and War Memorial Stadium going crazy. In fact, Andy was the MC, if you will. He introduced Christy and I when we got married at our reception. And he introduced the starting lineup of the new Norwood family. And number one was Christy Norwood, and I was number 1A. I'll never forget that. Haven't forgotten it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, I'd love to give you the intro. Hey, you're worthy of it. Love what you do. And again, thanks for taking time to be on the show today.
Of course. We love what you're doing. And I know we're going to get into it, hopefully, is all the great stuff that you did for our company. It's funny. Every morning, I still look over at our bucket list boards that we created. And I go over there about once a week and I take pictures of the ones that are on the not completed yet and just give a little push to our team and saying, hey, where are we at on this? How can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? Right. As you know, we're just one person away from moving some of that along. Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into that, but let's just dive right into it, Mike. Yeah. You guys, the Duley Group, back in September and October of last year, went through the bucket list life plan. Talk about, and you've gone through it personally too. You and I have kind of mentored each other, if you will, through that. But talk about the plan and the effect that it had with your company.
I don't know if I'm a slow learner. I had to go through it twice to catch up, right? No, but you know what? I think, and here's something for anyone listening, is Gary Keller wrote a book about real estate, millionaire real estate agent, and I've read it 4 times. Anything you're passionate about or you're going to do, you're going to be in a different place in your life and your business. So I'm a different place 4 years ago than I am today in my businesses, right? But also in my life, because it's a journey, right? And I always have to tell myself that every day is I probably failed 3 times today. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story. I had my vest on backwards. I got one of those vests that has the big imprint on the inside of it that shows you how to fold it into a pocket, like into a bag. And I was looking in the mirror and I was like, man, what's that white stuff on there? I had it inside out. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe it's a fashion statement. Back in the day, crisscross, maybe I'm the crisscross of 2021 or something. But all joking aside, here's what I loved about it. And a lot of people listening, I wasn't sure. When I went through it, I'm a growing person. I'm a learning person. I always want to learn, at least one thing a day. Every day I want to get better, right? Always get better. Not only as a business person, but as a dad, as a husband. I mean, I failed on both of those twice already, probably this morning, right? Getting my kid late to school some days, that happens, right? But how do you move? I would say move the ball forward and move it forward, right? But I wasn't sure how our people were going to take it. And I can't remember the count. I think it was like 22 people we had go through it. We have 48 people and 13 businesses today, which is just wild to me. But those people that took it, and I look at it, if you're a company too that's looking for, and I've seen that infographic, and I'm sure a lot of you have, it's like culture eats strategy for lunch, right? To me, when I hire someone, it's talking about culture. It talks about, are you having fun in what you're doing? A lot of times, imagine any job or career, if you said, hey, you want to have fun today, what does that look like? Not like, hey, here's your goal, your sales goal for the day. Here's what you must hit, right? That's part of it, right? Because obviously we want to do business and do life. But let's start about, okay, what does fun look like? How do we have fun? So I'll tell you, I'm one of those CEOs, leaders. When I come in our offices, we have Sonos and there's like no music. It's dead. I'm like, I grab 3 people and I'm like, get that Sonos on. Let's get it hyped in here, Kind of like Pittman, turn up the jukebox, right? Let's get it going, right? Here's what I love though. I saw, and you saw this, people cried during this, right? I didn't know what kind of emotions were going to happen. My own wife is part of our companies and businesses, and she took part in this. She wanted to get some things in her life, biking and exercising and some of those things, right? Like the next week, she organized 2 or 3 ladies to go biking together. Like you're going to see stuff that you perceive it being a certain way. And I'll just tell you, it's not going to be the way you perceive it, right? It's going to be better. And that's what I loved about it. But I'll tell you, I always say this to my students or anybody. If you're going to do something that you really like and you hear or you learn, you got to do it within 24 hours or you'll never do it.
Mm-hmm.
So within 24 hours of one of our sessions, we put up these 2 boards and are huge in our office. One is kind of the bucket list item for every single team member. And then the one on the right is the completed ones. And right now, if I go in there this morning, there's about half and half, right? Here's the great thing is though, stuff has been accomplished, which is really fun. And then we have the picture of the team member and their spouse or their family or whoever doing it. So that like offs emotions for me. Like it just gets emotions excited. When I see it every day, I see 2 pictures I look at a lot that I really like. Emily's one of them. She did a helicopter ride with her husband, Paul, right? Yeah. I know her husband's name, right? And that's part of it too. And that's cool, I'm trying to think, do I know all 48 people's spouse's name and kid's name? I might not, but I need to, right? But 2, as you grow and you scale, that's hard to do. But if you have those emotions, it keeps it real no matter the size of your company too. I know you're talking to companies that are thousands of people, right? Or even down to 2 people. It's all about what you put in it too. So those activities, that's really important. Another thing I wish we would have done better, or we did okay, was after each session, we put a Google sheet together and we had one of our assistants put what their item is to the side. So as a leader, you can go back and you can say, hey, Noah, I know a Rolex was one of the things, even though that's what I learned before I took bucket list, I thought it was about items and trips and all that stuff and realized it's so much more than that. And it's not even that really at all, but that can be a part of it, right?
Right.
And if I remember correctly, one of yours was the golf clubs, right?
Yeah.
I listen to you, see? And people say, wow, you Duley, you talk a lot, but I listen every now and then. But I think that's the emotions though, that I think are really important is the actions you put in it. So like, I would challenge anyone, if you're going to do it, don't just do it like you did other things that maybe your corporate headquarters mandated where you got to do this HR training or this kind of fun training. Employees and team members will see right through anything you say, oh, this is going to be fun. If you, the leader, don't believe in it and engage. I would say I passionately believed in it and I engaged at a high level every session, right, Brad?
Yeah, you did. You did. And so did your team. Your team buys in. You have what we help companies create and what we call the culture of achievement. Your culture, there's like you said, you walk in the door and hey, turn up the jukebox. Let's go. Let's get things moving around here today. You do so well at that. But it's not just because you're a motivator, Mike. It's because, like you said, you know the names of the spouses. You care genuinely. You're intentional about your people. And we talk a lot about intentionality. In fact, it's the baseline of bucket list living, right? How are you going to be intentional today? What are you going to do intentionally that moves the ball down the road for you?
Yeah, and you triggered something for me. One of those things that was up on the board for not completing was pay off an IRA this year for one of our team members. So just so you know, and these are things that I think about every day, is new team members or younger people or people that haven't invested at a high level, they don't have a financial advisor. They don't have anybody to go to. So if you're a leader in your company, you probably know 10 that are LinkedIn you every day saying, hey, you got to work with me. You got to talk to me, right? How great is it though, if you just make that one small connection? And here was my aha. My wife and I, when we just got married, we were thinking about, okay, what are we going to give our financial advisor? And she's much more conservative than I am in some ways too, where I get these, it's the yin and yang sometimes. Like, okay, we're going to put all this money and sock it away. And she's like, let's start with $25. And when people hear that, they're like, what, $25, but sometimes though, depending on the place you're at in your life, that's not a lot. But when you start putting it in compound interest calculators and Dave Ramsey calculators, you fast forward, you got $1 million, 20 years from now. People just don't think like that, right? Our brains aren't made like that. It's not like we said, hey, in high school, let me teach you about this compound interest thing that you're going to save money. You're like, no, how do I buy a video game, or how do I buy stuff? How to consume stuff, right? So our young people come out of college, we just said, hey, Noah, let me connect you with who happens to be my brother-in-law, financial advisor. Go have coffee with him, have lunch with him, tell him about your goals, right? And sometimes we don't realize just in tax savings, you might actually use it's 2 for 1, if you will, on some of that money. I'm not a CPA or financial advisor, but I listen to smart people, right? And I let them do it. That's the great thing, is let them go do it, right? Just be a connector. And I think that's one thing that I figured out that I maybe have done well sometimes, is just connecting the dots for people. Sometimes great people need to just meet each other and, let it go from there. Let it organically happen. Sometimes it won't happen. Well, great. Let them meet another person or meet another person. Bring great people together. And that's when the magic happens.
Well, and you're the world's best connector of people. I know that from experience. In fact, how we met, you introduced yourself that night at a basketball game, and gosh, by 8 o'clock the next morning, you were texting me and saying, hey, when can we get together? I'd just like to know more about what you do and who I can connect you with. And it was instant. I knew right then how genuine you were, and you've connected me. We've connected each other to several people that hopefully are continuing to help each other. And I love that about you and what you do. Encourage you to
Don't
keep
tell
that
many
up.
people that, because I got about 500 texts I haven't read in my phone today. So they might be like, dude, where's this response time I'm hearing so much about,
Right.
I would say though, as people scale in businesses too, and I was talking to a young man this morning, and he was like, I want to spend a lot of one-on-one time with you, which is great. Here's the thing though, if I think about growth and bucket list living and all that stuff, is you got to put parameters, you got to put real expectations. I want to dream to say I can respond to everyone very quickly and fast. Sometimes it just can't happen. And I think I'm in that phase sometimes where I want it to happen. That's who I am, right? And it just can't. So you got to figure out that sometimes for anyone that's an entrepreneur or growing, is what do those look like? And I think when I say, hey, I love you, I want to spend one-on-one time with you, but I put some stuff in to make sure, like Brad and I are spending one-on-one time now. If I don't have my assistants schedule that, then 7 people want one-on-one time, then it's diluted. No one gets one-on-one time, right? So that's important to have those parameters in place.
Yeah. Well, and here's a life hack that I want to share with people that I know you do this intentionally, Mike, and I don't know if you realize how well it works. But anytime Mike introduces me to someone, and you've taught me this, it's a great, like I said, life hack is what I call it. But anytime Mike introduces me to someone or needs to schedule something, it's always a group text. Now, don't panic if you're hearing group text. Oh no, I hate group text, because I'm sure it's 400 of the 500 texts you've got are group text, but you've made an introduction to others and you like to stay in the loop when you can. And I think that's a wonderful way to do it, is to say, hey, Mike, I want you to meet John. I'll introduce you to guys. Keep me in the loop. Enjoy what you do for each other. And I love how you do that with a group. In fact, I've gotten to know Jen over text.
Well, here's the thing to that though. How many times, think about in your life, that someone said, hey, you got to meet this person or whatever. And then someone might flip the number, right? You actually never text the person. You never talk to them. But if we're engaged together and there's a mutual commonality of a person, you say, hey, 2 great guys meet each other. Then you're kind of almost forced to say, okay, I got to respond. I got to engage, right? Too. So I just saw it over the years too as a win, I truly want these people to meet. So it's not that I'm just saying, hey, if you get a second, meet my lawn guy or whatever, but that happens through a group text too.
Sure.
Right. If you're passionate about them, right? I think that's important. If it's people that in your life that you care about and you hold at a high esteem or level, just, hey, get people together, right? I think about this, and you talk about tribes. I don't know if you remember if it was like during our wedding or the baptism or something like that, you talk about kids and raising kids. It really does. There's many times where Cody and I are like, who's canceling what? Who's picking up what? Whose mother-in-law can help, or who's whatever, And it's like balancing. It takes a tribe, And I think business is the same way. Like why do you look at that differently than family life or anything else you do, right? It's all, and here's something I'm starting to get out there, if you will, this work-life balance.
Yeah.
To me, there isn't anything. It's just life. It's my life, right? Come be part of it. Whether it's in work, personal, whatever it is, it's how we do life, right? So there's no work-life balance, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Some people hate that, but it's like we're so connected with our phones, social media, and everything we do. So why not be part of life with people you love and trust and have the same values? And we talked about this before the thing. Let's laugh a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What's some stuff we can have a good time, right?
Right. Life's simply too short. So,
Yep.
Mike, you touched on something that I want to talk about with you. You're the owner of 13 different companies. You're the serial entrepreneur that I've ever met. I mean, I love it. They're all successful. I know you've had some failures along the way, but that's what builds more success. But with those 13 companies, how do you effectively remain an engaging husband and a purposeful father?
Ooh, remember when you asked, is there anything you don't want me to ask? And questions like that, man, that's one that I fail a lot. And here's what I would tell you though. I have many coaches and mentors in my life too. I would challenge anyone, make sure you have those in your life. Is actually some of those have to happen on the calendar. Here's as much as if you're busy, you say, you know what, my sweetie, Cody or whatever is the most important thing to me. What happens is life gets going on, and fast forward, you're at April 1st, and you're like, oh, we should have done something for spring break with the kids, and you didn't. Everything has to be driven for me off the calendar just because I know that's, so that has to happen. So tonight, date night. So how many date nights are you going to have throughout the year, right? And we've decided that it's 24. You got to get those on the calendar. Now, does life come into play where we talked about kids basketball. Evelyn's got basketball on Thursday nights. I'm a coach, and it's something that's important to me, right?
Yeah.
So everyone knows at 4:00, I'm done. Like I shut off the office. Like my assistant, everyone knows no more meetings after 4 because my meeting is I pick up Evelyn and I'm the coach. I drive and her and I spend some time together. We drive to the, I want to say camp. We drive to our practice, right, on Thursday nights and we play. And then afterwards we drive home, we spend some time together. That's a quality time, but that's on my calendar. And I can remember in the very beginning, even me as an entrepreneur was like, I got to schedule time with my kids and my wife. That's tough for some people because you think about it like, oh, I'm being a bad dad or parent. Actually, fast forward to today, it's awesome because it happens. Because how many times does someone say, hey, can I have your time here? Can I have your time there? If you say yes, you're just going to bleed away at those date nights and those times, and it's going to look up and they're in double digits, right? They're 14 and they don't want nothing to do with you. So to me, it's putting those in place, and you know what? Their work. I'll tell you, like tonight, Cody and I are going to go to the Razorback game and have a good time. And Mermaids is one of our favorite restaurants. So we're going there, but it's like you had to organize a babysitter. You got to, organize those things. But that's life, right? If you want to do it right and those people are important, you got to do that, So I don't know if I answered it right as far as what people were expecting. But I would just say also, you have to give yourself grace too. Do I screw this up all the time? And you just say, okay, I actually just told, and I go back to my students because I love it. I talk about life. I do my classes like life and like business, and I told them, hey, January is over. So did you look and do what we call a correction of error of January? Did you look at your January and say, hey, here's some things I could have done better in my class? So for me, I was only on the treadmill about 4 times in January. That's not going to get it done, right? So I looked at January and said, okay, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? I probably ate Chick-fil-A 30 times in January, right? That ain't going to help me live to 100, right? If you look at bucket list living, right? How do I live to 100, right? So those are things to think about, though, too, is like group it. How did January do? How did I do last week? How did I do today, right?
Yeah, I love it. In fact, you've coined the phrase that I use now often in chunking it down. Chunking down your day, chunk down your month, chunk down your year. Take it, you can't eat the elephant all in one bite, right? And so I love how you're strategic about that. Get it on your calendar. It's okay for people, even in your family, to be on your calendar. It's not that it doesn't show that you're busy. It shows that they're a priority, right? And as we talk
100%.
about, priority beats urgency every single time. And so if they're a priority, you'll write them down, you'll put them on the calendar, divide that time out. Hey, even if it's a ride to basketball practice, gymnastics, whatever it might be, right? Get it on the calendar and know that that's the quality time that I'm totally 100% intentional about this time with you.
Well, when you talk about group text, my wife is on group text with my assistant too. The three of us, and when I look at it, I think in the beginning of being an entrepreneur and a businessman, I was like, I have these emails and texts going with my assistant, then with my wife, and then now I'm like, this is not doing life. It's getting complicated. Like, let all three of us talk and just say, okay, hey, Friday we got this going on. We can't miss it, right? Let's all be on the same page. I'm not sure if my wife loves it, but you know what? I don't miss it. I don't miss something, right? And
Right.
also we make sure we're on the same page. Because how many times in relationships, whether it's a business relationship, a marriage, or family, do you say, hey, there's a birthday party at 1:00 on Saturday? Just so you know, that's me, my assistant, and Cody, right? Because I want to make sure if that's a kid's birthday party my daughter wants to go to and I'm taking her to, we need to all make sure that I'm there and we're there, right? Okay, does the present need to happen, right? Who's picking that up? Who's buying it? We ordering it from Amazon, right? To be able to be successful in some of the things that you're doing, that's life, right? There's no balance, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned Cody, love Cody. She's your wife. Let's get into the Duley Group, your Keller Williams branch, real estate branch here in Northwest Arkansas, and now also in Northwest Florida. But I want to heap some praise on you guys. And I know it's easy for people listening, especially if you're here in Northwest Arkansas and you're listening, that the market's hot. It's at an all-time high. You can sell anything. You can put a tent out on the street right now and sell it, right, as a 2-bedroom if you want to.
Yep.
I get that. But Mike, we listed our house for sale back in September. And your team, especially Cody was our listing agent, was absolutely phenomenal in listing our house. And I know the market's hot, and that might have had something to do with it, but I'm going to tell you, even in a cold market, the strategy that you guys came in to our house with blew my mind. Now, I wasn't happy having to clean up that first weekend. I think it took us 6 days and tons of tears and not so harmful words, but not ugly, not great words either. It kind of got ugly there a couple of times of all the crap that we have stored in our house and had to take down. But your strategy was incredible. Our house sold in just 8 hours. It was incredible. So I want you to talk about not just Cody, but your entire team at the Duley Group. How have you won the game of real estate here in Northwest Arkansas and now in Northwest Florida?
Well, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. And I don't know a lot about our deals nowadays, as you kind of go through as an entrepreneur. That's hard for me because I used to know every house, every client. Obviously, you were a client, but in general, you want to know all of them. We were blessed to help 325 people last year. That's a lot of people. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I think we came into the game just over 4 years ago is several of us in the Duley Group, from Mick to Cody to me to whoever, came from corporate America. And we realized, in my mind, one thing I saw is that people, and this is for any entrepreneur listening, the business or the space that you're going into, I would challenge you, don't go into it exactly the way it's being done today. I would challenge anybody, don't just go, okay, here's the box and now I'm going to go in it. We didn't. We said, okay, how would Mountain Dew, how would Coke Zero, how would whoever, how would they launch a product or launch a home? So today, for instance, we have a full service marketing agency that's doing a lot of our marketing with us, Capture Marketing. It's knocking it out of the park. So we look at it like you would launch any brand in the world, right? Look at my pillow, right? Oh my God, that guy has, it seems quirky and it seems like a personal business, but he's got it figured out, dialed in, right? Because pillows aren't really sexy, if you will, some, right? But people think the sale of real estate and homes, hundreds of years, right? But we just look at it so differently. Look at it from a clean canvas, white canvas, right? How do you market this from a 360 marketing approach? And I think that's how we're winning. And I would tell you too, to your point, a lot of people say, you know what? I'm going to sell it for sale by owner, or I'm going to just use my cousin that just got their license. Just why I would challenge anyone to pause on that is almost anybody, even for sale by owner, can get a house under contract today. Here's where the real work happens. There's 200 tasks to close a home, working through appraisals, inspections, all those things, closing on time, right? All those HUDs and ALTAs and all that closing statements, all that stuff is the stuff that we have amazing staff, kind of the secret people. There's 12 of them right now that work tirelessly, full time, to be able to help you. So if you look and you got that one Phil Dunphy, as I thought, hey, when Cody was like, you're going to get into real estate, she pictured, me, a side of my car with a magnet and my picture on a sign. Some of that is how it started, right? Because I didn't know what I didn't know. But really, we look at it differently. And you know what else, too? Not every house is marketed exactly the same. So I would ask you, if you think about it, why'd you select where you were? People make strategic decisions to say, okay, my kids are going to be here. They're maybe going to be in sports throughout, right? Or maybe, we got to be close to my mother-in-law. Those are things that people think about. Well, why not bring that in as a brief, which we do, right? You think about large companies, brief us, right? Tell us why you chose the property, why we need to market it certain ways. And we ask really good questions. And we might have 10 people at a time on one listing. So think about that. There's, for instance, in Northwest Arkansas, there's 3,000 agents. There's over 2 million in the United States. How many people at a high level, like I said, there's 48 people in 13 businesses, and they're almost all cross-trained and involved in a real estate vertical somehow. We're looking at it that way, saying, okay, how do we launch this product, which is a home, right? But also, you talked about 6 days of emotions. Here's the challenge, though. Did a Mountain Dew ever have an emotion back on you, right? No. So you got to balance that, right? We got to have a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of touch, right? But it's those things. Now, you know what else? It's not a secret ingredient where you go, okay, we're going to make a margarita and there's 3 ingredients. Let's shake it up and it's ready to rock and roll, right? No, you know what? We might have started with this margarita. It was a strawberita, right? But you know what? As we went through, it might have become a Miami Vice, a half pina colada and a half strawberry daiquiri, because the market changed and the feedback we were getting. I think that's something else that we've learned at a high level is listen to what the people are telling you. If everyone comes in and says, you know what, hey, it's a beautiful home, but I don't love the backyard. Can you digitally stage, maybe it had what a pool could look like or a barbecue grill in the back? Like, listen to what people are telling you, right? Why do they have this thing in marketing, these big focus groups, right? I mean, look, for instance, the Masters, right? And I know I see a picture in the background. It's one of your favorite things. And I know you light up every time you hear the word Masters. You probably want to change your middle name to Masters. But is it strategically, is it like in December? No, or is it, there's some places in the United States where that's warm, right? So weather doesn't really is a total factor. Augusta, they have a mid climate, kind of like in Arkansas a little bit. But if you look, there's a reason strategically from a marketing standpoint. When do you start seeing Masters videos? The day after the other Masters ends, right?
Yeah.
It's not. So, I mean, it's a plan. And I think that's something that's important when people think about it is, and we always joke about this, is Christmas is the same time every year, right? So if you're in business and that's part of what you're going to be weaving in, like today is February 2nd, right? So why aren't we talking about, okay, Christmas is coming, put a plan in place now. And those are the people that execute at a high level. So I would say for me, they'll tell you, I don't really do anything, right? I just dream up the idea, come up with it, and put very talented, awesome people together and then get out of their way. But they will tell you sometimes I get in the way, right? So if any entrepreneur is listening, and I had a great mentor and a friend say, why are you in that meeting? Why are you going to that, right? You hired great people. So if you have like 3 leaders in one meeting, there's probably a problem, right? Either you don't have the right leader, you're not giving them a long enough leash, or whatever it is, ask good questions, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I know you talk about your team and that strategy too. Part of that isn't just with your seller, but you go with the mindset of the buyer as well. And so if they're looking for that nice backyard, you go straight and show them the backyard. If they're looking for the open kitchen, in what they're wanting to purchase, your team takes them right into the kitchen, right? I love how your team is so focused on both parties, the buy and the sell. It's part of why you're so successful. So I commend you for that. But one of the things you talk about, Mike, with the Duley Group, and I know your other companies, is the unique thing, especially about being a realtor, is that you are your own CEO. Talk about being your own CEO and the people that work for you.
And that would give some people anxiety, and some people that come into my world that can, right? Here's really just the mindset too of it. If you're in real estate or any business, you're running your job, you're running your business, right? So if you're the CEO and someone says to you in our world, like, hey, this needs to be done from 6 to 4 p.m. every day, and it must, because that's the way we've done it for 100 years, right? If you're your own CEO, you said, well, actually, you know what? I've looked at optimization of when I'm the best and when our client needs us the best, and it needs to be 10 to 2 here, and then whatever it is. We want to challenge people to think, right? A lot of times we hire people and we say, okay, this is the way we've done it for 20 years, and this is exactly the way we're going to do it, right? We even think as far as our email addresses. I love it. One of our coolest ones is Ashley Bennett's. Hers is awesome at theduleygroup.com, right? So she is awesome, right? And that's who she is. That's her culture and her, right? So why do we say, you know what? Hey, Brad, you're starting, and in our company, it has to be your first initial and then your last name at such and such, right? Like, that's old way of thinking too. So back to being your own CEO though, is you know what though? We're going to have parameters, and are we going to coach you? Yeah, we want to make you better, right? But back to life, not just in your career, right? And this is why I love the bucket list coaching, is because when we're talking about, hey, how many companies do you ever bid at? We're saying, I'm texting Noah, for instance, and I'm saying, hey, I saw the Rolex was on your list. And I said, hey, I heard about this website. It's Bob's Watches that has great certified used Rolexes. I knew that was on his board and that was important to him, right? So I found this resource and I sent it to him, right? That's part of living life and business, right? Because I truly care about him and I want him to get that. When people get those things and win, we have 3 or 4 people that have bought investment properties this year, a couple Airbnbs, lake places, beach places. When I see pictures of social media, them at their place, we've all won together, right? Because I've been a little bit a part of that, as far as just saying, one of them specifically never knew really how to get it off the fence and how to do it. And I said, you know what? Go talk to this person. And it was about 12 hours later, they were putting a contract on a place, right? Sometimes we just need someone to look at it differently and say, go do this now, right? Look at the end in mind, right? And I'm going to be talking to myself too, but that's one of the things I really want to lay out on my bucket list is a beach place in Northwest Florida. They think part of it that I was hiring and starting that company for them and for me, but really it's so me and my wife and family can spend more time there, right? That's part of strategic bucket list life planning, right? We plan that out, right? That's how do we VRBO that? How do we live there more? How do we work there more, right? And that's life, right?
Yeah, I love that you did that. You've got so much going on, Mike, and I would be a fool to not talk about all of your successes tied into the giving that you do. And I know we don't like to always toot our own horn, as the Bible says, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. But we say this humbly because we love to help people. You are without a doubt, the most giving person that I have ever met. You have the philosophy of say yes and figure it out. Talk about the donations, because you inspired me through my own coaching. Your group has inspired me for my goal for this year. But talk about how much your companies gave back and how you continue to do so last year and now into 2021.
You're trying to make me cry on your show, right? We talked about your dad crying at one time, but I would just say, and I never thought about it though. In 2019, I didn't say I've always been, Cody and I even met through American Diabetes. It's been part of our fabric of who we are as giving, my parents, they're some of the greatest givers that I know. I talk to my mom daily and she's like, yeah, I'm about to drop off a birthday gift for an 8-year-old that's at the Baptist Children's Home, right? Doesn't know the kid, doesn't anything, right? But is just a giving soul. So it's like, I can't take credit for it being me, if you will. I had great upbringing that kind of instilled that in me. But how do you continue to take it to the next level? Our CPA is finalizing, but I think we just gave under 70,000 last year in 2020. And to your point, and I didn't, as I was going through this journey, I didn't say, you know what, I'm going to say yes to everyone. But COVID happened and life was happening, and I just started going. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, and say yes to everyone. Now, I'll caveat that with, if you will, like when someone said, "Hey, I need 100 grand," I didn't say yes to that, but I said, you know what? Yes, I'll give you our own donation, but also let me help you go hit that goal. So we did that too. I think that's part of it. Is people say, well, maybe you don't have the cash flow or the cash to give it a high level, but help people do it, right? Your intellectual power is so much being able to just unlock an idea for somebody, right? I had an idea that I was working through. Me and you were even talking about it. Golf tournaments were done in COVID, right? How do you do virtual golf tournaments? How do you get some things going, right? And unlocking ideas. Those are things too that go a long way, because sometimes if people's a strategic giver and they're giving a certain amount of money every year, they're actually not going to be creative sometimes, because, okay, that's part of my plan. I'm going to give. I talked to my CPA or whatever. But if you actually get in there and get deep and say, okay, how am I going to do this? And just say yes. It's been awesome. And you know what I realized is that we actually yesterday in our company, we had meetings where people were going to do mock presentations, right? So I think we did like 11 of them. Almost every single one of them led with, or was like in the first couple sentences about what our company gave. And that was a huge aha to me, that it meant something to the people to share with other people, right? So you watch that YouTube video called Butterfly Effect. That's the butterfly effect, right? Because our people are really proud of who they work for and who they are and who we are, that we gave. And they didn't say, we've been blessed with several accolades, right? We did our 1,000th client in just over 4 years, did all these things, right? The team didn't lead with any of those really. They led with our giving. And for me, that just set it like over the top, just saying, how cool is that? And we got to do more of that, right? So 70,000 to me is just funny. I would have never fathomed in 2005 or 6, I think it was. I only made like 30 grand, right? So wait a minute, I just doubled my salary and my giving. How in 2021, 70 is not enough for me, right? And that's just something I'm going, how do we do that bigger and more at a high level? And I think some of it is telling more people about it, right? Which we're doing now.
Yeah.
So I think you just tell more people about it and say, hey, what if you for 1 month, so it's February, right? Or March, and said, I'm going to say yes to everyone that asks. The guy that's at Publix, that's at Walmart, that's at whatever, outside 7-Eleven, hey, you got a few dollars. Yes. Right. Give him a couple of dollars. A lot of times we have that, we prejudge it and say, he's going to buy beer with it or whatever. I've heard all that. Right. And I go through those emotions too, but just say, I remember I was at a Casey's or a Come and Go. It's the one kind of over there by Buffalo Wild Wings in Bentonville. And there's a guy out there, and we were just talking or whatever. He was sitting by himself. Sometimes giving is just talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. So could you do that? Could you just say, hey, how you doing? Have a blessed day. Is that going to give somebody, you know what, it might change their life if you think about it, because they're like, what if no one talked to them all day and they were thinking about taking their life or something, right? So I would challenge anyone. Give is not about money. Give is just loving, sharing, talking to people, right? So I started talking to him a little bit. He's hungry. I went in there and I got a sandwich. What kind of sandwich do you want? It's order by demand, right? It was like Subway in there. I got him whatever he wanted, and then just spent a little time with him. And this is not usually me, and it should be more and more. But I said, can I pray with you? Here's the thing, though. I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm like the greatest in the world at praying out loud, right? And a lot of people might think that, But just so you know, praying is talking and loving on somebody. That's all God is saying too. So I spoke my heart with him, I said, what was your name, right? And I just said, watch over you, be with you, and just went on it too, right? How many times is someone going to say, hey, can I pray for you or pray with you? Has someone said no? Mm-hmm. I don't think that's ever happened in my life, ever.
Yeah.
Even if they're not a believer or whatever it is, have you ever heard someone say, no, you can't pray for me? I don't think I've ever heard that ever, right? So those are things, to think about too, that we just said yes, right? I just figured out a way to say yes. Now did those things set in all the time? We're saying, I don't want to do that or whatever, But also, here's something else in 2020. We gave to hospitals and healthcare workers and firemen and policemen. I brought my kids along a lot of times.
Yeah.
Here's what else, and I know you do this at a high level, and I love it, right? Is get our kids involved. Let them ask you questions. Let them ask you hard questions. Why are we doing this? What do they need, right? And you don't have all the answers, share it with them. Let them engage with the folks too, right? So they're seeing the heart of giving, right?
Sure.
So I say all of that to back up to, do you think my parents brought me along to stuff? 100%, right? They said, we're going to say yes. I remember one of my dad's best friends, still one of his best friends today, is Mormon. One of the things that I love about the Mormon church, and I'm not Mormon, but for him, is that they have different roles for somebody. So if somebody in the church loses their job, great. We're going to activate the pantry. We're going to make sure they have food. We're going to activate tree trimming at their house, landscaping, whatever it is. And they lean in like a tribe. And I love it. Many times throughout my life, though, I was leaning in with my dad and his best friend on somebody. They just said, come along. We're going to help this lady. She needs trees trimming, whatever, even if it's just carrying things. I did it. And I never really went through these emotions till now. I'm going through the show a little bit now, just saying, hey, where's that fabric come from, right? So what a good time to start today.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing I have to say, if you don't do it within 24 hours, you'll never do it. So somebody's listening going, so you know what? Hey, maybe they listen to everything and they're going hogwash, but I like the saying yes thing. Just do that today and just do that, right? At a high level. And what if and I know you got a huge 500,000 person listening, right?
That's right.
All 500,000 people started today and just said yes, right? And we just had a hashtag and it said, say yes, right? And everything you did, you said, say yes and share the story, One of them that I love, and my kids love it, I listen to Bobby Bones every morning when I'm taking them to school. Tell me something good, right? It's the coolest segment there is. I love it. It's like there was a story yesterday. A delivery guy was driving by an abandoned car, and he just said, man, something seems weird there. He looked in, and there was a baby in the back. The car had been carjacked, and they left it and didn't know the baby was in the back, right? So if he would have said, no, I'm not going to mess with that car, it's just an abandoned car, and drove by, right? He said yes, right? So a lot of times just say yes goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you are the yes man, Mike. And it's part of what you just described and what we talk about in the life plan. It's part of your legacy, brother. And I just appreciate all the giving that you do. You have ingrained that into your people. It's, no pun intended, rooted into your culture with the tree that is painted on the wall in your main hallway. I love that it's life and business for you. You do amazing at it. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing it. Anybody listening, I hope you took that segment right there and can go out today and say yes. Just say yes. Even if it's just words of affirmation for someone, a prayer with someone, whatever it is, it's going to get you out of your comfort zone, but that's where the greatest growth happens. And so we encourage you today to say yes. Thanks for those words, Mike. Hey, we're at the end of our time. Man, I appreciate you. Are a busy
4 hours today.
I mean, you've probably got like 500 texts just in the hour we've spent together today. And so again, I appreciate your time coming on the show. I do have to ask you one more question because we ask every guest this, and you know this as a participant in the Bucket List Life Plan, but what is one challenge that you're going to conquer today?
Oh, I love that. As busy as I am today, I think there's like 14 meetings. I'm going to make sure though that I stay present with the people that I'm meeting with, and how about praying for those people that are in the meeting, beforehand or afterwards, because we're all going through something,
Yeah.
I do want to tiny, you mentioned the tree and I love it. It is, people think, how cool is that? Just so you know, like when I say yes, and maybe they're going, oh, wow, that's awesome. That doesn't happen naturally all the time. People think I painted the tree for them. I actually painted the tree on the wall for me. When I go in our office every day, I want to remember, right? You need to put those things in your life, in your place, right? You're not going to be perfect every day. Start putting those things in place. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet and it's on our wall. Is I want to be able to say, okay, who did I give to today? Who are we helping today? If it wasn't there, you would go on sometimes 3 weeks. Life happens, right? You're working, you're busy, and you're not blessing anyone or thanking anybody. So when I go over to that tree and there's no new, we post every charity that we donate to on the tree. If there's not new ones or I haven't seen many changes, I'm like, man, who do we need to give to? How do we need to help, right? So just a tip to tell people, this is not all figured out, right? But put stuff in place and hopefully they're realizing, add the calendar, right? What if it was every Friday, Giving Friday, every Friday from 4 to 4:30, you were going to say yes. And you put on your calendar from 4 to 4:30 and it just said, say yes. And it caused you, what if you went on Facebook and said, you know what? I'm going to comment on 20 people's pages, something super positive. That cost you any money? No.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Right? So, well, I love being here. I love what you're doing. And I appreciate you and love having you in our life. And continuing just to spread good things and do good things in business. But I love being on there. So my challenge today, and I just asked a question, right? So I'm going to pray for the people that I'm meeting with today, right? I'm going to stay focused with them. And I would challenge. That's not easy when you do 14, 15 meetings. At number 15, you're donezo, right?
Yeah.
So you do gotta, I do a tiny thing, and I know we're ending, but I got like 7 more hours of content for you now. Just I'm excited to be with you. I do a tiny thing. I do a Ric Flair. Woo! Do it with me. Woo!
Woo! Yeah, that's
Just
right.
So you know, whenever you get out of your chair and you've been in your chair for like 3 meetings in a row, I walk out of my office and I'm like, woo! Because it gets your body and it gets that energy. It's kind of like a little shock and it feels good. But you know what else? Other people are around, because they might be half sleeping and it wakes them up. Okay, what's going on? Where are we at? Right? So you got to have those triggers or those things in place in your life. So hopefully it lets everyone know. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I got it put together, right? No, all throughout the whole day, I got to have little things that help move me along and move me in the direction I want to go.
Yeah, I love it. And I've witnessed it. I've seen you get up and give the woo. I've seen others high five, and we always know that the team that gives the most high fives always wins the game. It's proven psychological factor. Get ahead of yourself, say yes, give some high fives. Mike, thanks again for being on the show. Hey, before we go, somebody's looking for a beach house in Northwest Florida. Everybody's looking for a house right now in Northwest Arkansas. I know that. And some people need to sell their house to be able to move forward, say yes to their dreams. How do they get a hold of the Duley Group?
Too kind. Thank you for that. Yeah. TheDuleyGroup.com is our website. And if you're in Northwest Arkansas, it's 616-HOME. Made the number really easy for you. Go ahead and give our team a text or a call, and we'll flawlessly help you. And then Jennifer's running Florida and doing an awesome job. Our CEO down there. We're helping a lot of great people find beach places. And if you have a couple weeks open, Brad and I would love to have those, right? Absolutely. No, but all joking aside, I dream, you're dreaming bucket list where you're going, right? Is I actually had this dream I want to share with you again. And if you keep asking questions, I'm going to spend 4 more hours with you. But I'm at American Diabetes. I'm at Kiss a Pig. And I actually saw Russ Daniel do this, and I love his heart in this. He had a Jeep that they were giving away in a live auction, and 2 people kept bidding it and bidding and bidding it. He gave 2 away. And I love that, right? So I've had this dream too, that during live auction, how do I give away weeks at the beach house? So partly one of the reasons that I want to have it for my family to be able to use it, friends to use it, charities to use it, right? We want it to be a community house, if you will. I want to be at those live auctions, Cancer Challenge, Make a Wish, you name it, where we have it. And then 2 or 3 people are bidding it up and they lean over and they say, hey, Mike, can we give away more weeks? And I'm like, of course. Those are the things that I want to have happen, right? Saying yes.
Continuing to bless people, my friend. Thanks again for being on the show. He's Mike Duley. I'm Brad Norwood. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, got something out of it. If nothing else, start saying yes, because the bucket list life is a life worth living. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.